What's happening, people? I'm here with the main man. It's the champ. Make sure you tune into Pep Talk UK, where it talks boxing and big up.
Thank you, AJ.
Pep Talk UK.
Ladies and gents, for the fight fans locked in, for the football fans locked in, now it's time for some real talk on Pep Talk. Let's go.
Everyone talk good game, but it don't really faze me. The man that ain't mad like Max, the boy that not murky like Ace B. And them guy walk the slide on the back bar, lean like a baby.
Oi, oi, welcome to the Pep Talk UK Sports Podcast, the podcast that talks the major boxing and football news from around the globe, real points of view from a real panel. Hashtag real talk on Pep Talk. Please subscribe to Pep Talk UK on iTunes and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share and comment. Right, now I'm your host Frankie B, and I'm joined by a couple of good guys. Now, first up, I'd like to welcome back the Frenchman with more va-va-voom than Henri, more panache than Eric Cantona. It's Pascal. How you doing, bro?
Frankie B, what an introduction. I feel very pumped. Merci beaucoup.
What was that thing Cantona said after he kicked the fan in the crowd? Something about the seagulls in the sea. What was it?
It was a bit of a point, Cantona, listen, Frankie B, as you know, even though I'm an Arsenal fan, I would always have some admiration for Eric Cantona. Big up Eric Cantona.
You know, I'm going to look for that video, after this podcast. I'm going to look for it when he jumped into the crowd and kicked the guy in the stand. That's a real one-off.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yes, I remember the fan called him a French frog or something like that.
Talked about his mother and all that stuff. Yeah.
That was an impressive flying kick. Even Bruce Lee would have been very proud of that.
That's it, man. Or even Fei Long from Street Fighter. Right now, Pascal, quickly shout out your social media.
I will. Is Pascal_de_Sad at Twitter and Instagram. Keep following me and I'll follow you back.
Yes, Pascal. Now I'd like to welcome back. It's been more than a minute. It's my brother. He's back in the building. Ken Buhari from Boxing News and also from Boxing Africa. My brother, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, Frankie. What's going on with you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm just trying to cut down the carbs, man. I've distanced myself away from the jollof rice, but it's all good.
What about the fufu though? Have you distanced yourself from that?
The fufu makes me go to sleep, man. I don't even look at fufu, man. What's been happening out there?
Man, everything is good, man. It's been I think a good start to the year. From Errol Spence all the way down to this big fight this weekend. Mm-hmm. We're psyched. I'm just ready. I can't wait. I feel like one of the fighters. And
you know what? I'll be honest. Over here in the UK, we've been watching a lot of the shots being aimed at Keith Thurman all over the shop. Sometime Thurman.
I was actually, I had a front row seat to when Porter got at him. It happened right in front of me, and it was really great watching them go back and forth. What was funny was Mikey Garcia was sitting right next to them, and I think at some point he just rolled his eyes, he got up and he left.
Yeah, you think it's all wrestling?
I don't think so. That's what's I think Sean Porter's mad. So it is what it is.
Thurman versus Errol Spence, mate. We're looking forward to that.
So are we, man. I think not this year, but definitely next year. I think we see it go down.
Well, the man said himself. He said it, man. It ain't happening. It's the get back here, baby. So all good. So Ken, do you want to shout out Boxing Africa, your social media handles before we get into it?
Absolutely. Check out www.boxingafrica.com or find us on Twitter and Instagram on Box Africa, or find me on Twitter at K Buhari, KBouhairie.
My G. Right. Yes, we ready. Let's get into it. It's real talk. It's pep talk. So we start with the boxing once more. The time for waiting is over. This weekend, it's the Bomb Squad is back in the building. It's back at the Barclay Card. It's Deontay Wilder. He takes on King Kong himself, Luis Ortiz. Now, Pascal, I know Luis Ortiz used to get the juices flowing, mate, for you, but he's got to come up now. He's been given opportunity. Like Deontay Wilder says, he's been blessed with the opportunity. He's really now got to step up and show what it's about.
Well, Frankie B, he has a lot to prove, and over the last recent months, Cuban boxing has been taking a bit of a bashing. We saw the Nomaschenko, between Rigondeaux and Nomaschenko.
He let down the Cubans, man. That Wu-Tang album only built for Cuban links was discredited, mate. I'll tell you that.
He let down the Cubans. Erisland Lara himself, his form is dipping. So it's now up to Victor Ortiz to prove a point. And Victor, will have the opportunity to have if he does win on Saturday, to be the first Cuban heavyweight boxer in recent years, and so there's a lot riding on him, and I think there could be a lot of pressure for Ortiz. And also my concern is that it could also be a controversial fight. We are talking about a two-time drug cheat, and whether or not he's 38 years old, again, that's yet to be proven. So, Ortiz is not really the squeaky clean, personality that we expect him to be, but I cannot doubt his boxing skills. He's shown over the years that he can box and he can fight, and he's been going at Deontay Wilder for quite some time, so he has now an opportunity to prove himself, but it could be potentially a couple of years too far, and every year that goes by in boxing.
Yeah. It's all about timing boxing, isn't it?
It's about timing, and I think that the timing is on Wilder's side rather than Ortiz's side. So, but for me, it's still a 50-50 fight, Frankie B. I'll tell you for why, because, Deontay Wilder has knocked out 38 out of his 39 opponents, so he's used to take them out of there very quickly.
97% knockout ratio.
But the caliber of his fighters has not been anybody that we can say, they've been spectacular, Ortiz will be his biggest test, and if he can knock out Ortiz, then we certainly have a very dangerous heavyweight. If he doesn't knock out Ortiz and he managed to box him and still win the fight, I'll still give Wilder some credit, because he's not being credited for holding, that record, 97% knockout ratio. It's a very impressive ratio, and for Wilder is an important fight, because he wants to be recognized as a bona fide, heavyweight champion of the world, and he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. And I think that if he can dispatch of Ortiz in a manner that is extraordinary, by knocking him out or by outboxing Ortiz, then we could have ourselves a very good unification fight if he does face Anthony Joshua.
But do you still think that people still won't give him the credit he deserves if he beats Luis Ortiz? Because he's 38 now, and a lot of people will say, well, yeah, he was over the hill, he's 38 years of age, he beat another nobody. Well, I think until he fights AJ, he's not going to get that, that credibility from the people, from the boxing fans.
I agree. I think Deontay Wilder is probably one of the most unlucky heavyweights to hold the strap, because, he has tried to fight these guys before. He's tried to fight Povetkin. Povetkin also, was a bit too familiar with the needle. Ortiz the same, so he has tried to prove himself and to prove to the critics that, look, I would fight anybody that you put in front of me, but unfortunately they all drug cheat, so what do you expect me to do? So even if he does win on Saturday, you are right, Frankie B, a lot of boxing aficionados will say, well, yeah, but Ortiz was a bit old, and he should have fought Ortiz 2-3 years ago. But at the end of the day, when he's all said and done, you can only fight who is in front of you. And if Wilder wins that fight, I'm actually excited to see what the subsequent fight will be, because it looks to me that he could potentially have to fight Dillian Whyte before the Anthony Joshua fight, because Dillian Whyte has got the interim WBC silverweight title, and he's number one. It could be a mandatory that he has to face before he faces Anthony Joshua. So there is still potentially another fight that Wilder will need to take care of to prove that, you know, before we get to that penultimate fight with Anthony Joshua. And that's if Anthony Joshua, of course, beats Parker.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna wipe the floor with Parker. In my opinion, Parker's all made for AJ just to walk through him. Yeah, I think this fight is a little bit more, Ken. I mean, Ortiz versus Wilder. For me, both still have a lot of questions that need to be answered.
For a lack of trying from either one of the fighters, I think Ortiz means well. He's trying to get a lot of guys in the ring, and I think Wilder means well as well. You know, people forget that he went overseas. He did try to make the fight with Povetkin. He tried to make this fight with Ortiz earlier. He's screaming Anthony Joshua's name any chance he gets. I sure hope he realizes he's not fighting Anthony Joshua this weekend. But you know, I think it's not for a lack of want from either one, but we really don't know how good or how bad either one of these guys are.
That's right, yeah.
And so we'll see. You know, I'm curious. Maybe Ortiz isn't the boogeyman that we thought. Maybe Wilder isn't who he thinks he is. Or maybe Wilder really is that guy. But what's interesting, though, is that I can't recall in my lifetime a time where the heavyweight division wasn't considered weak, meaning that no matter who the champion is, whenever you look at their resume, fighting, we've always thought, they're not that good. You know, Lennox Lewis supposedly fought in a weak era. Mike Tyson fought in a weak era, and that's what we always say. So you know, the reality is that this is Deontay Wilder's 7th title defense, which is amazing because I still view him as a baby in boxing, but he's slowly amassing a nice resume, and to see him against a so-called real opponent.
Does hold the coveted WBC heavyweight title, which for me is the best strap. I grew up on that strap. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think Wilder. I think you may be surprised at the crowd on Saturday night. Actually, I think Wilder's buzz is building, just based off of that last performance. Yes, it was against Bermain, Stavern, and he had no business being in the ring. But casual fans don't know that. They just know that, you know, there's this huge 6'7" heavyweight champion who went in there and destroyed this other guy, and at one point he had his hands down, daring the other guy to hit him. He did it with such style that I think that there's a buzz now. I've heard Snoop talking about him. I've heard Charlemagne the God talking about him. I hear the tickets for this one are selling out much faster than they thought, and it could be close or it could be a sellout, which is saying something at the Barclays. So Wilder's buzz is building. He was on ESPN yesterday.
Yeah, I see. He's been doing a blogging show. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. His girlfriend's got that reality show that he's on over here, and so I don't know if that's a plus or.
It's a very big plus. Right? It's a very big plus. More interested in her than Deontay.
Right.
But do you know what?
Yes, she's the real star, right?
Yeah, she is.
But you know what? Like, I'll be honest with you. Deontay Wilder, he reminds me a bit of Hassan Rahman. No disrespect, but you know, Hassan Rahman used to run up his mouth about this and that, how he's the best, and then he had the throw on the top of his head when he beat Lennox Lewis. Is this like a modern day version of him?
Well, you know what? That's almost, I hate to say this, but it's almost disrespectful to Hassan Rahman, because Hassan Rahman knocked out Lennox Lewis. So he beat David too, or he beat some guys, you know, but Wilder's not there yet. I do think that it's great that he's building all this buzz by running his mouth, and I don't know if he believes what he's saying. I find it at times hard to believe it, but I just want him to prove it. So, you know, just if you feel that way, then get in the ring and prove it. You've got a great chance against Ortiz. I agree with Pascal. I don't know how much credit really he's going to get for this, but I think it really depends on how he wins. If he's able to win in spectacular fashion, then he builds an even bigger buzz. And I think people are starting to pay attention to him, and we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens. But everything, his career really begins on Saturday night. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, Ken. Just finally, he did get my attention when he said he would have beaten a young Mike Tyson in his prime, mate. We have to shut that down right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes. No, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about that. All I can tell you is, buddy, I don't know if you saw Mike Tyson in his prime, but
no way. He could never have beaten him. Let's you know, we have to shut that down.
Yeah, let's be real.
Now it's interview time, and once again, our boxing correspondent Shaz has been out there This week, we feature on a man that returns to the ring at York Hall. It's the man they call Hot Shot, Dwayne Sinclair.
Pep Talk UK are joined by Dwayne Hotshot Sinclair, who looks sharp, looks ready ahead of his fight on the 3rd of March against Eric McConza. How you doing, Dwayne?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Dwayne, how's your regime been? How's training been for this camp?
Our training's been good. I'm just trying a few new things. The weight's where it needs to be, so it's definitely concentrating on technique and strength and all the good stuff instead of getting your weight down. So we're in a good place.
7-0?
Yep.
What's happening fight night?
I'm keeping my O. Has to be done. I'm not going to be cocky enough to say about whether it's going to be a knockout or whatever, because it's take what gives to you. I'm just looking for the W's, and I know Eric. I know Eric's team respect both ways, and I know he's a very strong boy. So I'm just going to go there and just do what I need to do to get the W.
A bit of a local derby, this one. Another South London lad, Miguel's gym.
That's it. And from even amateurs aware of Eric, because he's been in and around my weight group. So as I said, it's just all what needs to be done, pure business, just respect, and just best man's going to win on the night.
Now, I know a couple of weeks ago, me and you linked up at Touch Gloves Boxing. You've done a session with the kids. How was that for you?
No, it's good. As you know, I'm a school teacher. I always like showing the kids a different path, because I know a lot of the children, there's a lot of influences where they can end up doing the wrong thing, not necessarily going down the wrong path, but having a focus. And I liked the attention to see that they enjoyed what they were learning, and that seeing the improvement in that short 2 hours, that's a game for me, and I like giving back.
I have got a gripe about that, right? I'll tell you what the gripe is. You done all your thing, and then I got tired after the session finished by taking so many pictures of you with the kids. What was that all about? It was like pose here, pose there, hot shot here, hot shot there.
I think that's a testament to them just enjoying the class. So they became sort of receptive to what I was doing, and I think where they saw interaction with me and their main coach, then they just sort of warmed to me, I think.
I'll tell you what was a nice touch. You giving out tickets for some of the kids to come to your fight, and the t-shirts and the caps. Okay. So you're going to have a little mini army just following you around fight night. Yeah, that's nice. It's good. If you can, like I say, you give them a focus and they can see what they can aspire to. Because I spoke to about 4 or 5 in depth, and they said they wanted to fight. So if they can come to the atmosphere, see what it's about, if it's a small hall show, and they can see what how it builds up and so forth, because I'm sure they've seen what's on TV, but they would see where ground roots of boxing. At this point, I want you to shout out your sponsors and your social media handles. Okay, social media will be at Hotshot Sinclair. It's on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Sponsors, we get Boss Barbers, Total Therapy London. We've got don't let it slip my mind now, that's crazy. London Kings. We've got Inspire Beauty, and a lot of help from Pep Talk. Thank you very much. Love it. That's a nice way to end an interview. Nice one, Dwayne. Good luck fight night. We'll be there shouting you on. Have a great one, buddy. Thank you very much. Cheers, buddy.
So now it's football time. Now the Premier League always throws up big games, but we've got another big one, and that's Man City versus Chelsea at the Etihad Stadium. Now Pascal, it's another big one on the horizon. Man City are flying. They've already picked up the Carabao Cup, defeating Arsenal in spectacular fashion. But Chelsea stand in the way of their march once again to another Premier League title, my friend.
Yes, it certainly looks like Manchester City are out there to take another scalp of another London club. And unfortunately, Conte is under a lot of pressure. Having lost again, having lost to Manchester United, he cannot afford to lose to Manchester City. So I'm pretty sure that he will set out his team to go and try and win the game. But by the way that Manchester City displayed the type of football they are playing, the way they press the teams, they don't actually give the opportunity for the team to recuperate and to shape themselves. I expect a very, very difficult game for Chelsea, simply because for the Chelsea players, they'll be also thinking about the Champions League and against Barcelona, and what is Conte going to do, because to some extent you could argue that they are under pressure during that particular return leg, having drawn 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. They now have to go to the new camp, and it's going to be a difficult undertaking to go out there and to win the team, and to win the game. So I don't know how Conte intends to select the team on Sunday. And is he going to capitulate and say, look, this game is already lost, I need to concentrate on the Champions League, because he needs also the silverware, he's under big pressure to bring in some kind of silverware at Chelsea, and it could be a season for Chelsea that it could be proving quite disappointing. It's a very difficult fixture, and it's a very difficult time for Chelsea fans and for Chelsea Football Club. But if I'm brutally honest, the momentum is with Manchester City, and I expect Manchester City to take this game rather more. They'll certainly be more prepared for it, because City are already through, in my mind, to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So this game will be very difficult for Chelsea, and Chelsea, I would expect Chelsea to lose that game.
Do you know what? Like Chelsea, I know they've got Barcelona the game afterwards, but they still are not too far away from the top four, and they still need to make sure that they're switched on for this game. I think Chelsea, all those rumblings in the background have come to surface once again in the second season for the manager. You could even see from Batshuayi now, he's firing, mate, for Dortmund. He's scoring bare goals.
He's playing very well, and it could be the manager that's not good for the club, Sometimes that happens. But Conte has always complained about the lack of funding he's getting from Chelsea, which I found very strange, because, Chelsea are a well-funded club. Abramovich has always, been the type of owner to put money in his pocket, but I don't think that the direction of the managerial direction is shared by the board.
I see with Chelsea, with a lot of top teams, you need to have a strong spine. Now, if you look at their spine before, okay, Terry wasn't playing much, but he was in the club as part of the spine in the club. David Luiz was solid at the back last season. The goalkeeper is always solid. Courtois is always solid. Kante was solid. He's fallen off this season. Why he's fallen off? Because there's more games, quite simply. And then they had Diego Costa, who he's just a pest, man. He works hard, but he also scores goals, and he's got that winning mentality. So if you look at the whole spine of the team, that changed overnight. And as you see with Arsenal, you see with other teams as well, if you don't have a strong spine, you can't move forward. You only move backwards.
It's quite true, and we are beginning to understand how important that is. Certainly Chelsea fans and the Chelsea Football Club is beginning to understand that, having not replaced the spine, I would even argue that the spine was particularly removed when John Terry retired, but also when Matic left as well.
Matic, there you go.
Matic wasn't the best player, but he did provide that additional layer of support to the back four. And him being completely removed and Kante being exposed, there is only so much that Kante and Fabregas can do in the middle of the park. And also, for me, the biggest loss was Diego Costa, because Chelsea have not been able to recapture their form up front since the departure of Diego. And the Chelsea that has been very popular of the last 10 years was when they had players like Didier Drogba, that big powerful centre forwards, with power, with speed, with technical ability, and they've not been able to replace that player, and they've tried very hard to try and recreate that Drogba-esque type of player.
And Morata's different. It's a different type of striker.
Morata is a different type of striker, very different. And to me, Diego Costa was the closest that you could get to Didier Drogba. He had pace, power, and he also had tenacity. And if you gave Costa any opportunity to score within the box, he would turn defenders and strike beautifully. Unfortunately, his attitude was very difficult to manage, and Conte and Costa were always going to clash. You're always going to see that. You got two alpha males going head to head, and one of them had to go. And unfortunately for Chelsea, Costa had to leave, and since Costa left, they've not been able to replace him. They're now having to count on their attacking midfielders to get the goals. Willian
playing Hazard as a false nine, innit? And Williams come back into the team.
Yes, exactly. Willian to come back into the team. I've always admired Willian, very good player. I would have him at Arsenal any day. He's a very good player, very skillful, very pacey, and and he's been quite a revelation for Chelsea this season. And the problem with that is they're relying on the midfielders to score the goals, and even with the acquisition of Olivier Giroud, they've not been able to get him fired up and to get him started.
Yeah. And Giroud's probably, his best days are probably behind him, and even though he's big and he's tall, he's not really aggressive like that up front, like Drogba or Diego Costa.
He's not. He's more of a squad player than he is a frontline striker. He's not the first choice striker. But particularly if you look at the pedigree of strikers that Chelsea have had, even Torres, in his best days, he's better than Olivier Giroud. So I think that the games, as you know, Frankie B, have one in offensive play. And Chelsea against Manchester United showed that they could play offensive football, but the finishing was poor. They didn't have enough, in the final third to put away the game. And I'm afraid that Manchester City have got too much firepower.
Well, there you go. And we talked about the spine, and if you look at Lukaku's equaliser, again, fingers can be pointed at Christensen, and Christensen is a good young player, but once again he's learning the trade. Whereas before, David Luiz, when he was in favour, was a more experienced player that probably wouldn't get bullied by Lukaku.
Yes.
And definitely Chelsea need to invest in a bit of stronger players, and invest in that spine to get back to the glory days. And this guy Bakayoko has been a flop so far. I mean, I know he's from your home country in France, but
yes,
he's been a flop. And to be fair, it usually takes a year to acclimatise to the Premier League. It's fast, it's frantic, it's very physical, but he hasn't so far settled in, and they really need that presence in midfield, that Matic used to provide, that strength and security next to Kante.
They do, and unfortunately, for players like Bakayoko, good players, don't get me wrong, it comes from, very, very good French team, had, a very good formation into professional football. But the problem you have when you come to England and you come to top 4 club, you have to hit the ground running because the pressures are so great. Most of the top 4 teams are almost expected to win some kind of silverware. Whether it's not the league, they have to be involved in cup games, in FA Cup games, and there's a immediate requirement for Chelsea players, Manchester United players, Manchester City players to bring home some kind of silverware. And for Bakayoko, he's not been able to cement himself as that world-class player that we thought he was. When he was at Monaco, he played absolutely brilliantly. Yeah. He was the envy of many teams, and many teams wanted to
him and Mendy were superb.
They were beautiful players, and also and the fact that they played for Monaco were not really a European heavyweight team, but they played some exceptional football, and unfortunately that form has not transferred very well into the Premier League. Right. But as a midfielder, you're not expected to score many goals, but you're still expected to perform to a level that is recognized above the rest. But in saying that, Frankie B, Paul Pogba is also having difficulties as well.
I mean, Pogba. To be fair, Pascal, we talked about this probably the best part of a year ago when you said as soon as he signs for Man United, there's going to be problems with his positional play. He won't be able to express himself.
Of course.
He might clash with the manager, which has happened. And there's two things to this. I think his position of where he's playing in defensive work is not him. All right. And I think he's struggling with that. And then secondly, at the same time, Sanchez is coming as the new Don of the dressing room on more money. And all of a sudden, the wheels have come off with Pogba. It's ironic, isn't it?
I was very disappointed in Pogba going to Manchester United because, to me, is just a French Jean-Obi Mikel. You know, he's turned Mourinho has transformed Paul Pogba from an attacking midfielder to a defensive midfielder, and that is exactly what he done with Jean-Obi Mikel. Jean-Obi Mikel was actually an attacking midfielder.
He was one of the star players of the under-20 tournament with Messi at the time.
Absolutely, Frankie B. And lot of clubs wanted to sign him because he could take the ball from the back and take it and dribble players. And at Chelsea, he suddenly becomes this defensive player that we don't.
He became any Danny Drinkwater. That's what he became.
Yeah, and you know the Nigerian FA and even Nigeria was very annoyed at Mourinho for turning him into that. And it seems to me that Mourinho is trying to do that with Paul Pogba, and Paul Pogba, you know, it's not his natural position, and I'm afraid that we will not see Paul Pogba at Manchester United much longer. I believe that over the next 2 seasons, if he's not given the opportunity to express himself, if he has a good World Cup and he's not given the opportunity to express himself, I can see Paul Pogba going to Barcelona over the next couple of years. You know, or dare I say Manchester City.
Yeah. There's even talk of Real Madrid. Real Madrid lining up a bid for Paul Pogba for next season. I think Pogba, he'd flourish in an attacking team. You know, you're right, Barcelona would suit him down to the ground. Real Madrid, I'm not quite sure. Real Madrid are the type of team that everything's based around Ronaldo, and they're the type of club. They're a little bit like Chelsea, Real Madrid. They buy players and stuff, and for some reason, the players that they buy, they don't necessarily excel straight away.
Yeah.
Or they can mess up players. They've got that about them. Exact same as Chelsea.
It's true. You know? It's very true. I mean, look, you know, as far as Sunday's game is concerned, you know, Frankie B, my money is on Manchester City. Manchester City and Pep Guardiola's team will be fired up. They just won the Carabao Cup. They're about to potentially win the league in style. All they have to do is beat Chelsea, you know, 15 points ahead of the second team in command, which is Manchester United. They're running away with the title, Frankie B. And at this moment, Pep Guardiola will make sure that there's no more hiccups. You know, the defeat against Wigan in the FA Cup was a minor setback, and he will make sure that they go home and dry. And the thing is, with Pep Guardiola, he doesn't stop just because he's ahead. He's the kind of manager that wants to win at all cost, and he will want to score as many goals as possible. And I think
money.
Yeah. He would go at Chelsea. Definitely, they'll go at Chelsea, and I can certainly see at least 2 goals being scored by Manchester City. You know, I can see De Bruyne. You know, I mean, last time they played, it was a 1-0 victory, and it was a special goal by Kevin De Bruyne.
De Bruyne, that's right. Yeah.
Special goal. I mean, beautiful goal. I mean, this player is sensational.
Once again, a Chelsea player, you know, ex-Chelsea player that wasn't good enough for Chelsea.
Well, not given the time to flourish, and that's the problem we have, you know. Going back, Bakayoko could be that player in a couple of seasons, but do Chelsea have the patience to nurture the talent, or do they want the results straight away?
The way Bakayoko's been playing, he'll be going loco down in Acapulco, mate, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I believe that he could be out of his way, but also I think perhaps he does not play, the manager doesn't seem to get the best out of him, and you know, sometimes Frankie B is not always the players, it's the managers themselves that are not good at extrapolating the talent from those players. So, you know, but I think that the players at Chelsea don't have the motivation other than to beat Manchester City. Well, what else is there for them? Chelsea have to make sure that they don't slip through the ranks on the table, because, you know, Spurs are very, very close behind. Liverpool also, you know, also pushing on. And in the battle for the top 4 is going to be very interesting, you know, because there are still a lot of teams that want to secure that top 4. For me, I don't see much changes at the very top. Manchester City will remain number 1. Manchester United will remain number 2. And 3rd and 4th place will be between Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs, you know. And we know that Spurs, you know, won last week against Crystal Palace, and they will win again. You know, Harry Kane cannot stop scoring. But they also have a very important game against Juventus. But having scored 2 goals away at Turin last couple of weeks ago, I fancy, you know, Tottenham to go through as well, because they will have enough in, you know, artillery to beat Juventus back at Wembley Stadium. So, there's going to be a very difficult and tantalising race to the end.
So you're going for 2-0 victory to Man City. I will go for... I'm going to just turn things on top of its head. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I fancy a shock. I'm being optimistic here, but hey. But we will see what the results are. But, it's a massive game, and hopefully it'll be entertaining also. Right, that's our time. I'd like to thank Ken Buhari and Pascal. Thank the listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to Pep Talk UK. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Thank you.
Pep Talk UK.